The morning of June 7, 1983, dawned clear and quiet over Frankfurt, Germany. For most, it was an ordinary day, a Tuesday marked by the hum of traffic, the chatter of travelers, and the steady rhythm of airplanes rising into a bright blue sky. But for 236 passengers aboard Transcontinental Flight 418, it would become a day etched forever in aviation history, a day when the sky itself seemed to turn against them. At 8:01 a.m., Flight 418, a sleek Lockheed L-1011 TriStar, rolled down the runway, engines roaring with controlled power. Inside the cabin, a mix of families, business travelers, and students settled into their seats for the transatlantic journey to New York City. Among them were children returning from summer programs, a newlywed couple on their honeymoon, and a veteran pilot making his final journey home after retirement. The aircraft climbed gracefully to its cruising altitude, 35,000 feet, slicing through clouds like a silver arrow. In the cockpit sat Captain Robert Hall, a calm, methodical pilot with 25 years of experience, and First Officer Amanda Lewis, one of the few women flying commercial jets at the time. Behind them, Flight Engineer Thomas Reed monitored the aircraft's intricate systems, his eyes sweeping across glowing dials and indicators. Everything was normal. The passengers relaxed, meals were served, and the flight attendants moved quietly down the aisles. Nothing suggested that within hours, Flight 418 would become one of aviation's most studied disasters. At 11:17 a.m., somewhere over the North Atlantic, a small anomaly appeared on the flight engineer's panel, a temperature rise in the rear cargo hold. It wasn't alarming at first. Sensors sometimes gave false readings, but moments later the alert light flashed again, brighter, accompanied by a sharp tone. Captain Hall frowned. Cargo bay temperature rising. Let's run the checklist. Lewis reached for the manual, flipping pages as Reed verified systems. They activated the fire suppression system, halon gas designed to smother flames. Then they waited, but instead of silence, a faint thud echoed through the cabin floor. Then came the smell, acrid, metallic, like burning chemicals. Within seconds, passengers in the rear of the aircraft noticed smoke curling around their feet. A flight attendant rushed forward to report the situation. Captain Hall immediately declared an emergency and requested an emergency descent toward Brest, France, the nearest available airport. Mayday, mayday, this is Transcontinental 418. We have smoke in the cabin, possible fire in the cargo hold. Request immediate diversion. The calm in his voice belied the chaos unfolding behind him. The cabin crew moved swiftly, masks down, passengers instructed to remain seated. But panic was spreading. The smoke thickened, alarms shrieked, and the aircraft began a steep, controlled descent. Then at 12:01 p.m., disaster struck. The fire, fueled by chemical oxygen generators in the cargo bay, intensified. Those small canisters used to power passenger oxygen masks had been improperly labeled and stored as non-hazardous freight. When one overheated, it ignited the others in a chain reaction. The flames breached the cabin floor, melting wiring and disabling hydraulic systems. The cockpit filled with smoke. Captain Hall's voice crackled over the radio. Mayday. Control failure. Heavy smoke in the cockpit. Attempting emergency landing. On the radar screens at Brest, controllers watched in horror as Flight 418's altitude plummeted. Witnesses on the ground later described a dark plume slicing through the blue sky, pieces of metal fluttering down like silver rain. At 12:07 p.m., Transcontinental Flight 418 disappeared from radar. Moments later, it broke apart midair and scattered across the quiet countryside near Saint-Brieuc, France. All 236 souls aboard were lost. The world awoke the next morning to headlines of heartbreak. Flight 418, no survivors in Atlantic fire disaster. Families gathered at airports, clinging to hope that faded with each hour. It was not just another crash. It was a turning point, one that would force the aviation world to confront its hidden vulnerabilities. Investigators from multiple nations descended on the crash site. What they found shocked even the most seasoned experts. The fire had been caused by improperly stored hazardous cargo chemical oxygen generators that had triggered an uncontrollable blaze. The plane's fire suppression system, designed for typical materials, had been rendered useless. But amid the wreckage, they also found something extraordinary: the cockpit voice recorder. Despite damage, it had survived. When investigators played it back, they heard the haunting final minutes. Captain Hall's voice remained composed even as alarms blared. "Keep it steady. Cut the right system. We'll make it." Amanda Lewis coughed through thick smoke, reading out emergency checklists. And in the background, faint but unmistakable, were the muffled sobs of passengers, the creak of straining metal, and the human will to live fighting against impossible odds. Those final words changed the course of aviation training forever. Following the disaster, international regulations were rewritten. Airlines were forced to label and handle hazardous materials under strict supervision. New heat-resistant cargo containers were developed, and advanced smoke detection systems became mandatory. Flight 418 had become more than a tragedy. It had become a lesson carved into the foundation of modern flight. Yet, the emotional scars ran deep. For years, families of the victims returned to the crash site, a quiet field where grass now grows over the soil that once burned. A memorial stands there today, a stone wing rising toward the sky, engraved with 236 names, each one a reminder that progress is paid for in memory, not numbers. Historians and aviators now refer to Flight 418 as the turning point. It forced the world to look closer, to understand that aviation safety is written in the language of loss. Every regulation, every checklist, every pre-flight inspection, all of it exists because someone, somewhere, once paid the price for its absence. In the decades that followed, no similar disaster would occur again. The legacy of Flight 418 was felt in every safe landing, every calm flight, every pilot trained to react with precision and courage. Captain Hall and his crew were posthumously awarded for their bravery. Their composure under unimaginable pressure became required study material in flight academies worldwide. Pilots still quote Hall's final transmission as a testament to professionalism and courage. "We'll make it. We have to." Though they never reached the runway, their legacy did. The sky, vast, unpredictable, unforgiving, had taken them, but it had also listened. It had absorbed their story into its endless horizon, ensuring that their sacrifice would echo through generations of aviators. Today, if you fly across the Atlantic, you may pass unknowingly over the same stretch of sky where Flight 418 vanished. You might glance down at the endless blue below, calm, serene, almost peaceful, never realizing the history it holds. But for those who remember, that silence speaks louder than any storm. It carries an echo, faint, distant, but eternal, because some flights may fall, but their stories never do. The camera pans upward through layers of clouds until it reaches the golden edge of the atmosphere. The hum of jet engines fades, replaced by the soft whisper of wind, an echo lingering in the vastness. Text fades in across the sky, in memory of those who gave their lives to make the skies safer for all. And then, the screen fades to black. The Echoes of Flight logo glows faintly in the corner, steady, solemn, timeless. Every flight tells a story. Some end in silence, but their echoes last forever.